Welcome to the Sharpe Way show. Yes, it is Larry Sharpe, and it's 7 p.m. on the East Coast, which means you have to look at my mug. Yes, you do. I'm so happy you have joined me, and you know what I'm going to tell you to do, so please just do it. Like, comment, share. I got to make sure I get those algorithm thingies. I sound techie. Those algorithm things to move around and happen so we can actually get past our horrible media blockade, our blackout. So help me out by doing that if you can. And if you really love me, you can support the show. Patreon.com if you want to /Sharpe Way. You got $100 because you're filthy rich. Throw that money at me. I want it. Absolutely. If you don't have that, no worries. $10 is fine. And if you can't do any of that, all good. You can just like, comment, and share, or head over to my sponsor, theadvocates.org. Support them. Take the world's smallest political quiz. Take that quiz and then share it. And if you share it, they're happy, I'm happy, you're happy, and your friends are happy too. Everybody wins. And if you happen to like CBD products, I have a great place. Owned by Libertarian, grownselection.com. Throw in Sharpe Way 20. You'll get 20% off only because I love you. No other reason. I'm lying. It's not the only reason. But anyway, I do love you. That's still true. I am very lucky today. I have with me the man himself, the man who has run for president, the man who has run for Senate, the man who runs Liberty Republic, the man who actually has a radio show right now in the mornings, the man himself, Austin Petersen. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing very good, Larry. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Happy that you are here. I think the question that I want to ask, the one that's bugging me, and I'm sure we're going to have tons of questions, is like, I kind of want to know where your head was after the Missouri Senate race. Because I know you talked to me before the race, and you were like, you know what? Should I run as a Republican? Should I run as a Libertarian? Should I even run at all? I mean, that was all part of your thought process.
We had a meeting. Yeah, we talked.
I remember. So once that was done, and you now look back, where was your head?
Well, obviously disappointed, right?
Sure.
I'm sure you probably felt the same way, after your gubernatorial race, you put so much time and energy in it, and you expect so much more. You think, even if you don't win, you want to have a good showing, right? And I was disappointed with my results. I know other people were as well. You always have to kind of have that fallback plan if you're not going to win as a Libertarian, to accomplish certain things, certain goals that you want to tick off, right? And so I had to go through and pick up the pieces and say, what was useful, what was a good use of my time, and what wasn't, and could I take this information and do something different in the future. So one of the lessons that I learned in the Republican primary campaign is that there were certain things that I could change, that I could have done better. And it was the same with my Libertarian campaign. But unfortunately, the sad reality is that I didn't want to believe that the things that were inhibiting me from being more successful were really true. I wanted for a little while to I wanted to say, no, this is not the case. This is not real. I don't, I wish, but the sad fact is that for the Senate campaign, there was one critical, important factor that I could not do anything about. The president of the United States and the vice president came to my state, crisscrossed the state, campaigned for my opponent in the primary. I can't do anything about that.
Right. Absolutely.
But I did something in the Republican Senate primary campaign that I did during my Libertarian presidential campaign that I shouldn't have done. And I just didn't know because I just didn't have the experience. People, there's no handbook or guide for things like this. And the thing that I learned in my Republican primary campaign is that I wasted a lot of time going to Republican dinners and talking to people face to face and trying to get them to vote for me at Republican meetings, when the reality is that 1 out of 1,000 Republicans go to a Republican meeting and go to an event or a Lincoln Day dinner and actually participate in that process. And the other 999 Republicans are watching Fox News at home. So instead of spending my time and money meeting people face to face, shaking the hands, pressing the flesh, I would have been better served to take all that money and to just buy advertising on Fox News.
You have literally said the opposite of what like every libertarian candidate says.
Yes.
Literally every libertarian candidate says, oh, what killed me is I wasn't able to go out there and press the flesh and talk to people and shake hands and kiss babies.
No.
And you were saying exactly the opposite.
No, I should have taken all of my money, and I should have taken that awesome chicken ad that I had, that 30-second commercial that I made where I was calling Josh Hawley chicken, and I should have blasted that ad on Fox News. I should have just spent all my time fundraising, making ads, and then putting them on television, and I probably would have gotten a higher percentage of the vote. Not saying I would have won because of that big, Donald J. Trump effect, but I think that would have been a more effective use of my time. And it was the similar thing that I had done during the Libertarian Party campaign. I know a lot of libertarians won't like to hear this, but as a presidential candidate, it's a waste of time to go to all the conventions around the country, even if they bully you, and they do bully you. Like, you have to come to Ohio or I will never support you at the convention. But the sad fact is, Larry, is that if I would have just taken the money that I raised for my presidential campaign and just paid for hotel rooms and plane tickets, I could have just flown all my friends to Florida for a weekend, given them a free vacation, and have them voted for a delegate. That's the sad truth. I just didn't know.
God.
I just didn't know.
You're depressing us all. What are you doing?
I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I only know because I did it, and I learned my lesson. You know what I mean? There's nothing like failure to be the best teacher that you can have.
I agree with that 100%.
Hold on one second. Hold that thought. Maybe I got to grab. There's something on my front porch. Hold on.
Go get it. Oh, good. That is the glory of having a live show, right? And the advantage that I love about having candidates on who've lost, and I've had many of them on, as you know, my Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live, and many of the candidates have lost. Having candidates that
Sorry about that, Larry.
Oh, good. I'm riffing. Oh, good. I'm riffing.
Okay, good.
So having candidates who've gone through that really is a benefit for those of you who are thinking about running, right? You get that impact of, okay, this is what it's really like. Not what I think it's going to be, right? But what it's really like. So, well, I appreciate that. But now, knowing that in your own world, Trump was kind of a deterrent for you to win that first one. This year, though, you decided to go Trump over the LP. And I think in many people's minds, there were a lot of people who were still thinking, maybe we could get Austin back to the LP. Yeah. Maybe we could still get him back. Maybe he'll come back. All of a sudden,
maybe if we tell him he's not a real libertarian enough times,
if we yell at him 1,700 times, that's the number that will bring him back, right? 1,698, he's gonna stay away. But 1,700 at that point, he snaps and he comes back to us. So there were some people who were thinking that he can come back, he might. But then once you made that shift to Trump, I think most people said, that's it. It's over. He's not coming back. That's the game. I want to ask you, what made you make that thought process? What was it? As soon as we picked Joe Jorgensen, you were like, nah, it's Trump. Was there something that clicked?
Sort of like, so it's kind of complicated, but like, it wasn't like when they picked Joe Jorgensen. I thought Joe Jorgensen was a nice lady. I thought, but I do feel like, Larry, that like people kind of anticipated Justin Amash to jump in there. And like, honestly, I know Justin Amash a lot better. And when Joe Jorgensen got picked, I was kind of like, huh, who, and I had to look her up and keep in mind, like, I'm kind of manic online about liberty and libertarian stuff. And I'm always looking people up. So like when I had a name that I was like, who? I was like, what's going on? And so when I looked into it, I saw that it looked to me as if it was kind of like, it just sort of collapsed into Joe Jorgensen because it was like the default candidate that people could agree on rather than somebody that everybody was really excited about. And like, I gave her a chance and I had her on my show and I talked to Spike and I like Spike a lot. But they asked me, Joe Jorgensen asked me to come speak to introduce her at a rally. And so I did that. And then I got to see her speak and she read her entire speech off a script. And I was kind of like, well, we do have some issues here in St. Louis that are like that kind of libertarians could, really use addressing, and a lot of people in the community. And it just seemed that it was kind of like going through the motions. It was sort of like, not a presidential campaign that it wasn't trying to win and it wasn't trying to inspire, it felt like. You know what I mean? And that's just, that's just the libertarians. I think sometimes they just fail to read the room, where we're so isolated and insular that we think like what's good for us is what's good for everybody. But sometimes you have to like read the tea leaves of the electorate and where they're at a certain time. And I could tell that like the electorate was there was no room for a third party candidate in this election. And we saw that reflected in the vote total, where a lot of people who voted for libertarians in 2016, that 2% that got knocked off, they split off and they went to the other major party candidates, not through necessarily even any fault of Joe Jorgensen at all or Spike at all. I mean, I remember you and I were at that convention in 2016. It was insane, the amount of press and attention, and everybody was paying attention.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, just like that Donald Trump thing where, in my primary, I couldn't do anything about that, right? The Libertarian Party couldn't do anything about the insanity that was 2020 and the pandemic. And you know what I mean? Like the issues that the American people were looking at right now, we're talking about like international diseases and, travel and lockdowns and things. So for me, I knew it was going to be Trump. The thing that was kind of the straw that broke my back was the day that Senator Rand Paul was attacked again for like the third or fourth time he'd been violently attacked or something in the last few years.
This was in D.C., right?
After the Republican convention, and they were saying, say her name, justice for Breonna Taylor. I don't know if anybody remembers, but just a few months ago, leftists were burning down our cities and destroying businesses, including Black-owned businesses. And it just showed to me that like the left could not be reasoned with this year. There was no reasoning. And the problem is that there was no strong stand against that force of left. There was a very strong stand against Trump. I heard a lot of libertarians throwing a lot of hate at Donald Trump, and I was like, okay, I share a lot of these criticisms, bump stock bans, tariffs, etc. But I wasn't hearing that criticism being mirrored on the left and what was coming out of the left. Or as a matter of fact, I even saw libertarians were making excuses. There's things like, oh well, they're burning down businesses, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's not as bad as what's happening to the Black community in the streets and things like that. I'm like, these are Black-owned businesses and their livelihoods. So
I gotta tell you, in my world, I heard libertarians attacking both sides. I did. I mean, I don't know what I'm also in New York, so that may be a little bit of a difference. But I did and the Libertarian Party in New York leans right. Most of the time, it leans the opposite of the state. Not always, but it usually does, because the opposite of the state is being oppressed. So the Libertarian Party tends to lean that way.
Interesting.
Right. So Oklahoma Libertarian Party tends to lean left. Right. New York Libertarian Party tends to lean right. So I heard a lot of people really unhappy about Biden. He's socialist. He's going to become Kamala Harris. Oh, the anti Kamala Harris that I got from libertarians, huge. I mean, lots. I felt both in my view. Right. I think that the presidential ticket wasn't as anti-Biden as it was anti-Trump. It was much more anti-Trump, I think, than anti-Biden.
Well, that's really what I was trying to say. Was that I didn't feel like they were being objective in their criticisms of him, and that was actually a back and forth that I got into it with Justin Amash on recently. Is that I feel like the libertarians, instead of having an objective analysis of Donald Trump, were suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. And to me, the first stage of Trump derangement syndrome is that you are unable to objectively analyze the behaviors of the president from a perspective of pure liberty or statism or tyranny, whatever. And when I would say things like, to ask, what libertarian things has Donald Trump done, I would post on Twitter as a poll. A lot of libertarians, and especially ones with the official LP, libertarian on their Twitter handle, would say nothing. He's done nothing libertarian. So what I did was I had Matt Welch on my show from Reason, and I asked him this question, two questions. I said, Matt, what libertarian things has Joe Biden done since he was a senator, since his time in Congress? And he said, nothing. And I go, okay. Well, what libertarian things has Donald Trump done since he's become president of the United States? And Matt goes, well, there's a lot. And there was the First Step Act. There was right to try. There was, certain foreign policy goals, things like that. And I was kind of like, Well, I mean, libertarians are used to getting absolutely nothing, zip, nada, zilch. And when I actually did an objective analysis. I gave a speech to Dartmouth before the election where I did an analysis of the libertarian things that Donald Trump has done compared to Reagan. Trump did more libertarian stuff than Ronald Reagan, and I liked Ronald Reagan, for many reasons.
Reagan was my first commander in chief.
Yes, and so that's right, U.S. Marine, hoorah, Semper Fi. And so I thought, well, the libertarians do not seem to be taking themselves seriously because they're unable to objectively analyze not only the president, but also the political winds that we're facing at this time and what we're up against. I had LGBT members saying that who
But
had
hold
voted.
on, let me go to a different piece. I mean,
Yeah,
was there realistically a chance that Biden was going to win Missouri?
No, but I thought that it was a good idea to vote for the president because we had spent 4 years getting berated about the Electoral College. So I wanted him to have a large popular vote total because I'm sick of the leftists threatening the Electoral College.
The funny thing I thought, and I didn't tell people whether or not they should vote for Biden or for Trump. I never did. I still haven't to this day. I haven't. What I said was, if you live in a swing state, I get it. You're going to vote for who you think who you're less afraid of is probably who you're going to vote for, who you're less afraid of.
Right.
But if you're not in a swing state, like New York, I knew New York was going Biden. There was no doubt that it was going to go Biden. I traveled the state more than most people. I knew it was going to go Biden. There was no doubt. I would have bet my house on it. I was that sure that it was going to go Biden. And I told people, it's going to go Biden anyway. Why wouldn't you vote third party? Even if you're a socialist, vote green, right?
But here's the thing, and here's the dirty little secret. The presidency is different from others like offices that you vote for. For example, on the state level, like if you vote for a statewide libertarian candidate, then then that gets them a percentage towards ballot access, just like you and when you ran for governor in New York. It's the same here in Missouri. So I actually did vote for statewide libertarian candidates here in the state of Missouri. One was our gubernatorial candidate, and two was our VP or our vice governor or whatever it is, lieutenant governor candidate. And that actually, was a point towards helping the Libertarian Party have ballot access here in the state of Missouri. But the president is a different office. The president has a popular vote total and an electoral college total. So I could vote for a libertarian in Missouri and help the party by giving them ballot access, or at least a point towards ballot access there, voting for a statewide candidate, but also vote my conscience. And, I was voting my conscience by voting for Donald Trump. I did not feel as if Jo Jorgensen was a good representative for our ideas in 2020. She's not a flawed candidate by any measure. She's just not the right person for the right time. Just like I didn't believe that Gary was the right person at the right time, obviously, in 2016. But I mean, the problem, I think, is that libertarians, we really need a reality check, I think, because we like what we like, but we seem to not give a rip about. We have this attitude of we don't care what anybody thinks about us. That's fine, but you can't take that attitude when you're running for office.
Not as a candidate, you can't care.
You have to care what other people think, and you have to comport yourself accordingly. And so, it's counterproductive to run as a libertarian and say you don't care what anybody thinks about. I had one candidate in Texas who was running against Dan Crenshaw, who I can't stand as a libertarian candidate. Dan Crenshaw to me was better than the libertarian candidate because he spent all his time arguing with me, a radio host in a state where he can't even nobody can vote for him here. You know what I mean? So it's tone deaf is what I feel like. And since, I could go on.
So was there a straw that broke the camel's back? Was it okay, that's it, I'm done? I feel like, and I was on the outside looking in here, so I may be off on this, but I'm telling you how I felt. I felt like you weren't sure until relatively close to the election.
Yeah.
Is that true or no?
No, that's true. It was it was the Rand Paul attack.
That was the thing.
That convinced me that, and all the rioting and the looting, and Kyle Rittenhouse, 17-year-old teenager who had to shoot 3 communists, in Kenosha. People were contacting me, Larry, who were like, please, Austin, I hear you fight for liberty. Please help. Our local officials are locking down our economy and letting them burn our businesses and stuff like that. And I'm like, where's the Libertarian Party candidate on this? Why aren't we in Kenosha? You know what I mean? Like standing up for these people. So there, it was a long train of things, but the Rand Paul attack was what finally did it. Yeah.
So now you've decided the election's over. I'm assuming do you think Trump's going to pull this out somehow? Yeah, I don't think so either. I think election's over. Okay. The election's over. You've decided Tea Party 2. That surprised me. I didn't see that coming. I did not see Tea Party 2 coming out of you. I was thinking, is he going to go maybe Liberty Caucus Republican, or is he going to do something like that? Why Tea Party 2?
Because I think that libertarians need to have a seat at the table at the upcoming negotiations for who will be the future of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And I think Tea Partiers, have libertarian leanings. And I think that Trump and his MAGA Republicans, there was a power vacuum now. Mm-hmm. Trump leaving means that there will be a battle for the commanding heights of the Republican Party, for a war for the future of the Republican Party, which means that right now there is an opportunity. And a lot of these MAGA Republicans probably would have voted LP in 2016 if there was a more Tea Party style candidate. A lot of the MAGA Republicans that I know are like, oh yeah, I liked Austin, but I couldn't vote for the pothead guy. You know what I mean? In 2016. So what I think is that because the Tea Party in 2016 or the Tea Party in like 2010, on had those libertarian inklings that if the MAGA Republicans who will be leaderless have the neocons vying for their support versus the Tea Party libertarians vying for their support, they're going to be more willing to support Tea Partiers than they're going to be willing to support Mitt Romney's, Nikki Haley's, never-ending war neocons. But they won't do it if we don't offer them that alternative.
So you think the Tea Party 2 is a way of being available to either take over the Republican Party or at least have a big say in the party if there's not a takeover?
I don't see it as being a takeover. I don't know that a takeover is really possible. I do think that it can be a punching above your weight minority. I think that at least for the time being that the libertarian movement is going to be a minority. It's not going to be a permanent minority, but it's going to be a minority for a long time, and we're going to punch above our weight. And how we're going to be we're going to have to pick our battles. And I think that this is a good battle to pick. If we build Tea Party 2, then we can latch on to branding that people are already familiar with and that a lot of people already know and understand and like and are all about. Sure, a lot of people dislike it, but just because people dislike it doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad idea. You know what I mean? Like, I do quite well, floating on the backs of my haters. I will tell you that. My haters pay my bills a lot of times. So the Tea Party 2 is an attempt to support Republicans like Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Thomas Massey, Burgess Owens, people who identify with our ideals to a large degree, even if they're not 100% with us, and to wield influence in the Republican Party to a degree. It's either us to me or it's the neocons, and I'd rather it be us than the neocons.
Okay, that makes sense. I see where you're going with that. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to take a couple questions if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. Zach asked, do you think you should have, with hindsight, stayed in the LP, or was the move the right move with hindsight?
I gave 10 years of my life to that party. Mm-hmm. I worked from the very, very bottom of that party to the very, very top. I was a petitioner. I stood outside and to get people on the ballot, Bill Redpath on the ballot in Virginia. Bill Redpath, after I, unfortunately, nominated Alicia Duren, that was a mistake, or I, pushed for Alicia Duren. Bill Redpath got in my face and was screaming in my face, denigrating the work that I had done as a street activist for the party. And it was someone that I had known for a long time. And, the Libertarian Party, many people, they told me before I was thinking about running for Senate that I should leave, that I was a Republican, and that I should leave the Libertarian Party and take all of my people with the 21% of the party that I had either brought to the party or had, captured. And so I think that, if you're not wanted there, and the people could say, well, you're not wanted in the Republican Party either. They don't want libertarians in the Libertarian Party. They don't want libertarians in the Republican Party. Okay, well, if I have to deal with not being wanted in a political party, I should at least be in the political party that has a chance at winning. Because if I have to deal with all the same problems in the Republican Party that I have, every person will say, well, what about this in the Republican Party? I'm like, same problem in the LP. Same problem in the LP. So you get all of the negatives in the Libertarian Party without any of the positives being that you could actually win.
Okay, so Zach, I think his question is he thinks the right thing.
Yeah.
There we go. Yes. Okay. Good. This guy brings up, it was frustrating to hear from everyone. I've never heard of him. I thought Hawley was unopposed. That is frustrating, right? I mean, that I still have that happen for me for my gubernatorial race. Oh, you ran for governor? I'm like, man. And some of these are my friends.
No,
and they're like, you ran for governor? Like, oh my God, that's bad. So yeah,
people just aren't as hyper political as we are. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, people, we're weirdos, man. Like we sit around and we really get excited when somebody's like this Judy Shelton character who Trump is trying to put on the Federal Reserve Board right now. She's like a hard money scholar, like wrote about the gold standard and stuff. And I'm just like reading her books about the gold standard and the Bretton Woods agreement and stuff like that. Normal stuff when we're hanging out with our Liberty friends.
No one else does.
Weird stuff when you walk outside your door, you know?
Absolutely.
I mean, hell, we're in the middle of a pandemic and my neighbors don't even know what's going on. And I'm like, and they're like, well, how long do you think this pandemic's going to last? And I'm like, 2 or 3 years. And they're like, huh? Well, I guess I got to get the kids out of school. Oh, it's virtual. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, people have lives. People are normal.
Absolutely.
People are muggles. They don't get it. And that's why instead of going to every Republican dinner and talking to the other weirdos, I should have spent my money to talk to the weirdos who watch Fox News.
There we go. Yes, absolutely.
You know.
Well, Zach says AP's correct. Ours are glued to Fox.
Have to buy those ads. Have to pay that money. Don't go thinking you're going to go to the local Republican club and win the election there. Yeah. Go to the television sets. Go to where the
But there's a new piece here now, right? Fox is taking a beating too, right? They're taking a beating also. If any of the I guess the major news stations have won in 2020, it's CNN. CNN, when it comes to major news sources, they've won. When it comes to minor news sources, Newsmax and OAN have won. I mean, Fox took a beating this year compared to what it was, right? It's still strong. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it's weak all of a sudden. But relatively, CNN has really moved up a notch. And the anti-Trump rhetoric has been some of the best stuff they've ever done.
Larry, here's something that your people aren't going to want to hear. But I'll ask it. I'll do it in a form of question. Which television news network has the hottest anchors?
The hottest anchors?
The most attractive female news anchors are on which network?
Almost always Fox.
Fox is going to be just fine. Trust me.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine because I promise you. Actually, one of the things that I learned when I went to work there is that like 50 to 60% of the people who watch television watch it with the sound off because they're at home and they're like making dinner for their kids and they just see the screen. And so that's why they taught us to like write headlines and things like that could tell people what the news is in like 26 characters or less.
Right.
Because people are just glancing at the screen and they're getting what's being said from what's being written below and they want to see. It's a visual medium. So, you know, another thing that we libertarians like, we want people to make decisions based on their minds when, you know, sometimes people are making decisions on what to watch on TV based on not their minds.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's super emotional. I totally agree. But I'm just saying the reason why I'm saying is if you go back to 2016 and if you were a right-leaning TV news watcher, there really wasn't much else but Fox. I mean, those others existed, but they weren't that strong. Now, if you're a right-leaning news watcher, you have serious other options available that just weren't serious before. Now you've got some. You could spend time on some other things. You could spend more time on maybe The Blaze. You could spend more time on Newsmax. You spend more time on OAN. There's other things you can do versus just watch Fox all day. But you can literally watch CNN all day.
You can, but remember this, like the type of people who are going to like know what The Blaze is and like go to get those news. They're going to be less of those kind of normal people, right? When you turn on Fox News, you're not just getting like political reporting. You're also getting like, really good meteorology. You're getting very good like news report. Fox and Friends in the morning has the puppies come out, and they've got like really good like stars, country music stars that will sing on Fox and Friends and things like that. So there's a cultural thing there. People are really like loath.
It's a cultural thing. I agree.
Yeah, people are very loath to put down their tribal objects. You know what I mean? And Fox News has sway over people in a way that was very difficult to break that kind of spell. So while certain like partisan, hardcore like Trumpers, yeah, they might go to Newsmax, and there's certain people going to do that. Grandma just wants to see, the country music star and the puppies in the morning, and see, Rand Paul saying mean things about Obama for a couple of minutes. You know what I mean? It's just what it is. It is what it is.
Jonathan asked, did you just get a pizza? Yes, he did. He has to eat. Yes.
I did. Yes. Sorry. I've been a busy day. Busy day.
That's and it's like 6 or something over there, right? You're like an hour behind me.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah, it's dinner time. Jonathan, don't be mean. It's dinner time. Guys got to eat. It's all good. So yes. Jonathan also wants to know, why do you expect to get anything out of the GOP? It's one half of the commission on presidential debates. So I guess his point, I think, if I read him right, is they're going to be corrupt and not want to talk to you anyway. That's his thought.
Sure. Well, so like, the not winning the election, you have your secondary kind of fallback things, and like, yes, I wish I would have done Fox News instead of going to all the events. I will say, though, that I feel a lot more comfortable being a kind of a prophet amongst the heathens than being like sort of a rabble rouser amongst the people that I already agree with, right? So it's kind of like when I spent time amongst the Republican Party people, there were times when people were coming up asking me really good questions about economics, about the Constitution, about foreign policy, et cetera, et cetera. And these are people who had just never been exposed to libertarian ideas. Everybody who's in the Libertarian Party has already made up their minds. They've all made up their minds about how they feel about something like that. And there exists that in a small sense, in the Republican Party as well, but not to that large of extent, right? More and more what I was realizing on my campaign trail is that it's kind of like you've done sales, Larry. You make 100 sales calls, you get one sale, and that's all you needed for the day, right? Yep. You made your quota for the day, right? Yep. So like there were times when I was making sales to these Republicans, and getting to talk to people about ideas that these people have just never heard before, never come into contact with. I feel so much more productive as a Republican spreading libertarian ideas. I mean, what's the point of being a libertarian in the Libertarian Party? You know what I mean? Like, quite frankly, the Antifa guys, are more interesting than like your standard libertarian in the Libertarian Party. It's like, also like,
just keep punching me. Keep punching me, Austin. Keep punching.
Sorry, but like, consider this. There were people that at the beginning of my Republican primary campaign who got in my face and were like, you don't believe in God, blah, 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 blah. You are not a Republican because you are not a Christian, da, da, da. And then like, I got to talk to them about my mom dying. And then from there, they were like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. And then I talked to them about like, me being pro-life. And then the deprogramming began. You could almost hear a snap in their head because they were like, wait a minute, he's pro-life, so I have to like him, but he doesn't believe in God, so he must be going to hell, but he doesn't want to kill babies. And people who don't want to kill babies aren't the type of people who go to hell. So, and then by the end of the campaign, those kinds of people were approaching me like, Austin, I didn't vote for you, or there were like hardcore conservative pro-life Christians who like, they are like some of the biggest like, Republican Christian conservatives in the legislature now that were running when I was running at the same time, who endorsed me, like went out of their way. It didn't endorse the Christian Josh Hawley guy, all that kind of stuff. Endorsed me instead, a pro-life secularist.
Well, but
so I mean, like win. You know what I mean? Huge win. You would never have that.
You said, why be a libertarian? And it's a great question. People, the Republicans in New York State ask you that monthly. So yes, I mean, I get asked all the time for Republicans.
If you ever leave that party, Larry, they'll kill you. They're gonna be if you leave the Libertarian Party, like, because Larry, you are the great black hope.
I think you may be right. You may be right.
If you ever decide to do something, and if you're following your conscience, and you leave the Libertarian Party, Larry, if you've seen what happened to me, like Like they thought I was the great white hope, but you are the great black hope. I mean, you're like the one black guy in the party. So if you leave,
Well,
it's
come on,
like
that's others to being mean now.
there's
Come on
two
now.
black guys. One
Come
guy's
on.
okay. Are you mixed?
Come on.
Okay. There's one other black guy at least in the party.
You asked the question, so I'm going to answer your question.
All right.
I think it's the long game, and I really believe that. After 2016, I said I have a 10-year plan. I'm 4 years in. I got 6 left.
Damn,
and
dude, it's been a hard time, man. That's hard time.
It's hard time.
Yeah,
it's hard time. I agree with you.
I'm sitting pretty. I don't even have to like try and get on the ballot if I want as Republican here in Missouri.
I know. It's still hard time, but I honestly believe that if we don't break the left-right, he or she is evil paradigm, that no matter what, it just gets worse. That's what I believe, right? If Trump had won this election, the left would have gone further left, and the gap would have been even deeper. If Trump loses this election, I think he's lost this election. Him losing this election, okay, now there's going to be some type of civil war in the Republican Party, whatever that looks like. And there'll be some type of civil war in the Democratic Party, whatever that looks like. And then we'll just deepen it again, because for the Republicans to say, let's all get behind whoever is the new king, whoever that new king is, we're going to have to find an enemy. And that enemy is going to be evil socialist Biden. And as the left has their civil war, whether the AOCs run the show, whether the Susan Rices run the show, whatever is the rule in the Democratic Party, they're going to need to unite them. Oh, it's the evil whoever is the king in the Republican Party. They're just Trump Jr., right? That's what they're going to say no matter who it is. And they're going to fight each other, which means it gets deeper. And the only way we change that, in my view, and I know people disagree with me, but my view is there has to be a viable referee. There has to be a viable third party. There's got to be someone who can go, you're both full of shit.
But what is the objective good? What is the objective good of a third party? Here's the thing. What if you're wrong, Larry? What if a two-party system is actually a superior system to other systems around the world? Canada has a multi-party system, and then look what they give us, Justin Trudeau, right? Look at other countries in the world that have multi-party systems, like the UK, for example. And I would argue that their form of government is not superior to the American form of government. What form of government around the world that has multiple parties is superior to the United States in the form of governance or in terms of protecting the individual rights of their citizens, Larry? So I have to think about those things because I want to ensure that I'm being logical. What if the two-party system is actually the best system that's ever been devised? And I say that not because like I particularly like it or think that it's always fair. And I just don't think, but I've also given up the idea that politics is fair, right? And I learned that lesson the hard way from Bill Weld. You and I both did. We both saw that the Libertarian Party, the third party that was supposed to be the referee, sold out their principles, the party of principle, for money and for wealth and for a little bit of shot of fame. And then when that didn't work out, they endorsed Hillary Clinton, or he endorsed Hillary Clinton, right? So I mean, like, that was a lesson I learned, and I was like, well, damn, maybe if I have to deal with those kinds of problems, why not just do it in a party that can win, right? And the party that won't endorse Hillary Clinton that I don't identify with. So what if you're wrong, Larry?
Yep.
What if the two-party system has led to an imperfect form of government, but the best form of government the world has ever seen?
Another great question. And if I'm wrong, then I've thrown 10 years of my life away.
No,
I'm okay with that.
I don't think so.
If I'm right, though, and I'm actually able to turn this party into something decent, and I'm trying my best to push this party into something decent to the best of it, it is without question, this party is a dumpster fire on wheels disaster. No question. I agree with that. And I've said that publicly. There's no question. But without it, I'm walking. So I stay on it and I keep trying to put the fire out because I think it's still the best route that I have available to me.
Larry,
here's why I believe it. Hold on.
You're too nice, Larry. You're too nice.
Is that too nice? I'm too nice.
And that's why. But that's the thing is. But Larry, you're actually, I think, in some ways, and I've actually thought about this. And this is, I like you as a friend, but you might be indicative of the problem. in that
I'm the problem. You
you
keep
might
punching
be
today.
the problem. You might be the
Going.
problem, Larry. And here's why. Because you are too nice, because you are creating a safe space, because libertarians actually need to be made uncomfortable, and because you are making people feel a little too comfortable. I feel like the problem is that you get people telling them, you know, you're pretty, that's fine, we'll make this work, it's good, when in reality, like, somebody needs to take a flamethrower and just which is what I've been doing from outside the party, and it's not quite as effective as it would be from inside the party. So the thing is that unfortunately, Larry, like, you exemplify the sort of desire for many of the libertarians to say, just tell me I'm pretty, tell me everything's going to be good, the future will be bright, and that there is an optimistic future, when it's like, I think they need to be told, you continue down the current path you're on right now, and you will get 0.5% next time.
I don't think you've been watching my show much.
Okay.
Because,
all right.
Because last week I pulled out a chart and I did my Glenn Beck impression, and I was expressing how bad things are. I literally was talking about military tactics on how things are not working.
Oh, see,
and
that's
how
I
we
went.
have to fix it.
Larry,
yes,
once you do that, that's what I did. That's what I did. And as soon as I started doing that, that's when they're like, no, tell us we're pretty. Get out, Austin, get out. We need somebody to tell us we're pretty. And
they haven't thrown me out yet. So, but remember something though. Look, I get what you're saying. And am I too nice? Yeah, in a way I am. I agree, because I'm not trying to fight the left or fight the right. I'm greedy, Austin. I want to convert them all. I want 7 billion libertarians. If I don't get 7 billion libertarians, I failed. I want them all, every one of them. And I'm not going to get them by yelling at them. They yell at me often, and I get that. The difference is when they yell at me, I just smile and keep going. And they tend to come to me. They tend to come to me. So I could be wrong.
They come to you, Larry, because they feel safe with you. And the problem is that you need to be leading your people into danger. Like, you have to, and you are only going to know you're on the right path when you feel afraid. And courage is feeling afraid and doing the right thing anyway, continuing on ahead anyway. You'll know that you are on the right path when you are getting attacked. Like, I know
every day, brother, every day.
Right. And so that's the thing, is that, like, you know, libertarians, I feel like, want a safe space. They want a safe space, and they think the Libertarian Party is like the safe space for them to play. When, like, you know, the reality is, you know, again, Gary Johnson, Bill Weld taught me that it's not a safe space. It's a place of danger and a place where you should expect betrayal. You know, Alicia Dern stabbing me in the back, right? Like, these were important lessons. I was sweet once. I was young and naive and thought that I could reform the party and, you know, get outside the two-party system and be a good representative for libertarian ideas. But after having been stabbed in the back so many times by people who claim to be my friend, you know, I realized that, you know, essentially what we need to do is cross the Rubicon. You know, that our old friends, they don't need to be coddled. They need to go through boot camp. They need to go through hell, and then it's time for us to cross the Rubicon, and that might mean breaking the rules. That might mean losing some friends that we once had, because they don't feel very comfortable by the fact that you're offering this militant rhetoric, this Sun Tzu, this art of war, because that's dangerous. But
you know, I lose friends all the time. I lost friends for having you on.
Did you?
I'm
really?
not joking. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
for having you on. Literally, I had people literally say, "Why are you doing this? Terrible guy. He betrayed us. Bad guy." I had a guy literally end his Patreon over it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Larry.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry at all. At all.
I don't like that, and I don't want that, and I don't want people to not like you, and I don't want people to not like me. You know what? I
put people on. That's the show. If you don't like the show, I get it. You don't have to support me. I understand. And you're gonna have people on the show who you don't like, and people who you like, and people. You think he didn't say anything when I had Howie Hawkins, the socialist, on? That was fine. But you, that's too much. So yes, but no, I don't mind at all. I'm gonna keep going, and it's gonna keep happening.
I'm sorry, Larry, and I don't want to be mean, and I don't honestly enjoy being rude or hateful or flippant or sarcasm, and I don't really love fighting so much as, you know, I think I'm good at it. But I'll just say that, like, the only thing that the one thing that we know is that if we continue to do what we have been doing,
Yep.
the trends that we have seen will continue.
I'm with you on
So
that.
the only way to not continue these trends is to do something different. So I'm choosing to do something different. And you know what? It's working, Larry.
I love it.
I mean, Tea Party 2, it's getting traction, man. Like, people are contacting me. Blue check marks hit me up on Twitter. How do I get involved? People are like, let's go, because they see here, libertarians are so used to zero. And then when you try and take one step forward, there's going to be those crabs in a bucket trying to stop you, right? But you have to keep going anyway. You have to do it. You have to grab onto that next rung of the ladder, keep going.
Let me grab two different things. One, I've got a bunch of people asking me the same thing. Did you make some comments regarding trans people recently?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Can you talk about that? People can ask about the trans comment. That's what I'm getting.
Sure. So I have a gay brother and a gay sister, and I majored in musical theater, so I'm very well aware of the conversations that go on in the LGBTQ plus whatever community, and I follow that community. I have a lot of friends in that community, and like I said, I have a gay brother and a gay sister. So I talk to a lot of my gay friends about what's happening in the LGBT community, because when I worked at the LP, I used to go voluntarily run events at gay pride parades to recruit libertarians to the party at gay pride events, right? And so what I've been following is this debate inside the LGBT movement about the T part of the LGBT, right?
Got it.
Okay. And a lot of people have been following what's happening in Europe, right? Where they are in some people may know Jordan Petersen, right? Jordan Petersen got famous because he refused to obey Canada's speech laws when it came to what to identify someone as with their pronouns, right? And so and a lot of my LGB friends have identified that the T movement has become increasingly authoritarian. Whether it's in speech codes or other things like transitioning children, right? And there's a culture of transgenderism that tries to convince young people to transition. Doctors who refuse to transition young people will get doxxed and harassed and attacked, right? So there's free speech, and then there's also a culture of free speech. So what I said was, and this is because of a specific incident that happened months ago, there was a community on Reddit called LGB Drop the T. And it was LGB, radical feminists, people who called themselves trans exclusionary, radical feminists, and others who felt that the T community had become increasingly authoritarian. And I noticed that myself. So I said, and this is what caused everybody to call me a bigot and get angry. I said, I'm with LGB Drop the T. And instantly it's, transphobic bigotry and things like that. And the idea was, let's spark a debate about how one letter in this community is trying to speak for this entire community, and it's a collectivist fallacy anyway for there to assume that there's some hive mind, right? But the Democrats and the left, because they are many of them hive mind, communists, leftists, socialists, so like that, they want the LGBs to shut up and go to the back of the bus, Rosa Parks, and take a backseat to T's and transgenderism. If you've watched Dave Chappelle's Sticks and Stones special, he even comments on this, and he was attacked for being a transphobe for making some of these observations. So I brought that up in order to spark a debate over that, because my concern is that many libertarians, same types who have fallen for Trump derangement syndrome, are falling for this new social justice warrior movement, in that they think that in order to be an ally of the LGBT community, they have to force you to bake the cake. I think
yes, sure.
You're familiar with that one.
I heard that
once or twice. Yes, bake the cake, bigot. And they think that LGBT, that these four groups, these people, they must speak as one voice and as one mind. When increasingly I'm hearing from my LGBT friends who are saying, we're terrified. We can't speak up. I ask my LGBT friends, please come on my show. Can we talk about this? If you feel like you can't speak up, you'll lose their job. And they're like, no, I'm more afraid they'll lose my job. I wish they say, Austin, will you use your platform to speak out for us marginalized people who are being marginalized? So ironically, I spoke up for a marginalized group and then was attacked by a group for speaking up for a marginalized group. So I thought it would be a good time to point out some of what I see as these cognitive dissonances that are working its way into the libertarian movement from the left.
Okay.
We can't be, it's not enough to not be racist. We must be anti-racist, right? So this shows to me a sincere display of ignorance on the behalf of the liberty movement, because there's decades of Marxist literature that clearly defines what anti-racism is, right? And it's not just being against racism, it's anti-capitalist and it's anti-white. It's anti-capitalist because capitalism is a system of oppression that's used to keep down minorities, and it's anti-white because whites can only be considered as oppressors in whatever relationships they have. They are always at the top of the power. The left sees a hierarchy of power with white male, cisgender males sitting at the very top, and then the oppression Olympics, everybody competes all the way down to be the very, very bottom of the heap, to be the special victims, right? We want to be the victims, and then they compete for victimhood until we're all at the very bottom of the sludge, and we've reached what the Marxists want, which is everybody equal.
You went down a real rabbit hole there. Okay.
I did, but this is the left. Okay. This is what the modern left advocates for. Libertarians adopt this at their peril, and they adopt it because they got 50,000 followers on Twitter for showing their boobs instead of spending a couple of days, reading Hayek and reading, Marxist literature, reading the Communist Manifesto. And we are saddled with a generation of youth who feel their politics and call themselves libertarians rather than are thinking their way through their politics and making rational, conscious decisions.
But I got to tell you, I know a lot of Democrats. I live in New York City. Mm-hmm. Most of my local friends are Democrats, mm-hmm. right? And the majority of them actually don't think that way at all. They just hate Republicans. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying forward. That's what most of them do. They just don't like Republicans. There's lots of people I know who are Democrats who said to me, and I've brought this up before many times, I had guys who were Democrats who loved Hillary Clinton, meaning supported her, wrote her a check for $2,000, wore the I'm with her sticker or button on the lapel pin while working, like that type of supporter. Mm-hmm. And they told me to my face, and this is before the Democrats picked Biden, they said, if the Democrats go Bernie, I'm voting Trump. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of Democrats who aren't the leftists that you're saying. There's lots of them who simply think that Republicans are mean.
But here's the thing. Those may be like the majority, but here's the thing. It does not take a majority to win, but a keen, irate minority. And the left knows this. The Democratic Socialists, the Socialist Party collapsed in the Progressive era because they were like, well, let's just go be Tea Partiers in the Democratic Party, and we will be, the Ocasio-Cortezes and things like that. And they are a minority, but they have they punch above their weight in the Democratic Party.
It's true.
Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, things like that. They have a lot of power. The squad, exactly. I want to recommend this book to your listeners. It's called Cynical Theories. Reading it now by James Lindsay. And in it, I think it details the threat of what we're facing here. And these are going to be like terms that we really have to be able to define here, right? And let me just read this little, like three sentences here. The progressive left has aligned itself not with modernity, right? The Enlightenment values, like forward thinking, not with modernity, but with postmodernism, right? What is postmodernism, right? Postmodernism rejects objective truth as a fantasy, right? There is no biological sex. Right? Mm-hmm. There is no male or female. There is no such thing as objective truth. This is what postmodernism is, right? And they say that is a fantasy dreamed up by arrogantly bigoted Enlightenment thinkers who underestimated the collateral consequences of modernity's progress. So what he is saying here is that what the squad, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they say that there is no objective truth. That is a fantasy that is pushed on us by people who are bigoted Enlightenment thinkers. If you are for Enlightenment principles like liberalism, free speech, self-defense, and certain things that we hold dear as libertarians, then that you are bigoted by default, right? And so that is the enemy of logic and reason. I mean, Ayn Rand would have been, going crazy because her whole thing was logic, is everything, right? So we need to know thine enemy, right?
Phil asks, he says, you left before the Mises Caucus was formed.
Correct.
Do you think you would have fit in?
For sure. But again, remember, like, who wants to be king of the midgets? You know what I mean? Tallest midget contest. You know what I mean? Like, again, like, I do so much better, you know.
I like being big fish, small pond. What are you talking about?
It's, yeah, you know, it can be fun, but the problem...
there's a spot for that, right? I never forget the story of the old kings of Europe, where there's like some guy who's a baron from a small Germanic, princedom someplace, and he gets invited to the Ritz fancy ball, and everyone's like, dude, there's like 9 people in your kingdom. He's like, yeah, but I'm royalty.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but think about that.
He was still royalty.
Here's the thing. Who is the Mises Caucus trying to convince?
I think in general, the Mises Caucus has kind of 2 different people they're trying to convince. They're trying to convince the newer libertarian to go their route versus another route, right? What's the
other route?
And the other route is getting Republicans to become libertarians.
Okay.
That's their 2.
Okay. But what is the other route?
What do you mean?
Well, so they're trying to convince them to go the Mises route. What's the other route for libertarians?
Either the Prague route or the anarchist route or the left-leaning route, the socialist route.
A lot of anarchists, right? A lot of anarchists are in the Mises Caucus, right?
Some are, but some are in the socialist side.
Sure. So I mean, like, so the problem is that, like, the Mises Caucus is trying to convince other libertarians to be more libertarian, and so it's like, what the hell? Like, that's not what I want. I want to take somebody who is like, who's never. You can make a sale so much easier to somebody who's not familiar with the products at all than you can with somebody who's knows all the ins and outs of the products. They're going to come up and ask you all these different questions and things like that. And then once they find the heresy, then you're out. No, I can't buy your product because I found the heresy, right? You know what I mean? And that's just, that is a waste of time, dude. Convince people, go into the fields, plant the seeds where the ground is fertile. The ground is not fertile in the Libertarian Party right now. The ground is fallow. The ground is dry. The drought. It's a drought, and you should plant. What's that biblical seed? Good seeds. Good seeds. Plant the good seeds in the good ground. You know what I mean? Like, don't allow it to fall by the side of the road where the birds will eat it and it will be destroyed. Sorry for the biblical injunction there.
No worries.
But I mean, plant your seed in fertile ground.
But Pete asked you. He says, "Have you ever taken the world's smallest political quiz? Have you ever taken it before?"
I used to give that quiz to people as a member of the Libertarian Party when I worked at the National Committee. A lot of people don't know this, but I recruited more volunteers to the Libertarian Party than anybody had in the entire history of the party up until that point, 2008. So I like that. I did that all over the place.
And anybody who wants to take it, please head over to theadvocates.org. Head over there right now. Take that political quiz right now. Share it online and tell your friends. They're one of my sponsors. Please take it now.
And I'm still 100% at the quadrant, even though I'm not considered a real libertarian, because in order to be a real libertarian, you have to buy a lifetime membership to the LP. So technically, Bill Weld qualifies, but I don't.
I do. I actually have bought mine too. Yes, I bought mine. I bought my way in. I'm in. It's true. But it's funny. I'm not 100. I'm actually not.
Really? Oh,
I'm not 100.
Yeah.
I am a status a little bit. I have a couple of maybes. I have a couple of maybes that I am concerned about. So I'm like 90 or something like that, or whatever, or 190 or something like that. But I have a couple of them. I do. Absolutely.
Join me in the Republican Party, and together we will rule the world as galaxy as father and son.
This is the worry that I have as Republicans in my state particularly, right? Yeah. Republicans will often say to me, Larry, come on, you can't win as a libertarian. I can't win as a Republican in my state either. It's like you're giving me anything.
Good point.
Right?
No, good point. Good point.
You're not you're not offering me anything, right? You're offering me to just lose again. I'll pass.
But what if Larry, you were to be the campaign manager for the Republican gubernatorial candidate, and then he ends up, because on a statewide level, sometimes Republicans win in New York, right? So like
statewide.
Statewide, yeah, you've had like Rudy. Well, what was the last Republican governor you had? Right,
2002. It was So 18 years we haven't won.
Was it Rudy Giuliani?
Pataki.
Okay, and then you had Chris Christie in New Jersey. You know what I mean? So you would probably do more for liberty by being a campaign manager for a statewide gubernatorial candidate or something like that as a Republican in New York than running as a gubernatorial candidate in the Libertarian Party in New York. You probably would. But libertarians will like you more if you run as a libertarian candidate. And you know what's most important, Larry, is that libertarians like you.
That is
That's the
important.
most important thing that you
It
can
is
do for
important.
liberty, is to have other libertarians like you.
They do have to like me. That's true. But no, I get what you're saying. I do.
Mhm.
The reality of it is, I still believe in my model. This is not necessarily a bad model for me personally. That's all I'm saying. The guy, he's like on money and stuff or whatever. I mean, he's still, the Russians still think he's great.
I have been rethinking my Machiavelli. I have been rethinking the Prince, and I have been rethinking it because I think he has been unfairly maligned by people who saw the craven search for power as Machiavellianism, when in another interpretation of Machiavellianism was that this is the only way for the prince to survive, because being a good guy will get you stabbed in the back. It's easier. He said, it's better to be feared than loved.
That's what he said.
And do you know why he said it? Do you understand? Do you know what his reasoning for that was?
That you wouldn't get stabbed?
Well, Larry, here's the thing. You're loved right now, right? You are beloved.
And hated, both.
Well, but here's the thing. It's better to be feared than loved, Machiavelli said, because if people love you, they can turn that off in an instant. Love is a fickle emotion for people, especially if you're not like their wife, right? And they can turn on you in an instant. But if people are afraid of you, Larry, they are much more careful about crossing you.
It's true.
Politics is a game of thrones. It's not, it's not the play place. It's not the playground. Don't hit other people and don't take their stuff. Ha ha ha! Teacher, see.
Yeah, but see, there's one thing that isn't clear here, and most who don't know this, and I'll share with you and share with my audience. The people who know me well, and there are very few who know me very well. Some people on my campaign, they know that I'm always positive and nice, no matter what. Even when I'm being strong, even when I'm being ruthless, I'm still being positive and nice. The story I don't tell people all the time, but I'll tell you because you'll get it. When I was running for governor, there were elements of the Libertarian Party back then, before it was an official party, who said, Larry, you would consider getting a cross endorsement. We have fusion voting in New York State. You can have two lines,
remember
right?
this. Yes. Didn't you refuse that?
No, I didn't do anything. I was just talking about it. I didn't do anything. I was talking about it.
Oh, yes. And they hated you for it.
Hated me and said, we may not give you the nomination. So I was very nice. And I said, you don't have to if you don't want to. I don't mind at all. Don't. I dare you. Don't do it. And I will run anyway without you. I will then get 50,000 without you. I will then establish the Libertarian Party without you. And I will throw you all out of the party.
Well, but I mean, why do that? Why? You're fighting for a kingdom.
But all of a sudden, they said, Larry, we're just kidding. Yeah, I know you were.
They weren't kidding, Larry.
Of course they weren't.
And
I don't care is my point.
But it would have been a good thing for liberty.
No.
Yes, if you had been on more battle lines, you would have gotten more votes.
Because what I just did with that move was let them know that I'm not going to be a jerk in perpetuity. That's what I let them know. I'm not going to be a jerk in perpetuity.
You're too nice,
If we
Larry.
all get on the same team, then we're all on the same team. If you want to go your route, go your route. It's up to you. I'm not going to be mad about it. Me being annoyed, I remember this, and I do this when I coach leaders in business, right? This is terrible. I have to be mean and harsh about it. I say, why? Well, they need to know that I'm serious. Then just tell them that you're serious. The idea of being mean or harsh is not required. In fact, once you scar someone, then once you've scarred them, now once the gap is done, that relationship is finished. I would rather not have it to be finished, particularly if I have to work with the person or be with them. The Libertarian Party is too small.
That is wrong. And here's the thing, and I'm not necessarily saying that people are like kids, but let's be honest, like a lot of adults are just overgrown kids. I used to do substitute teaching, and whenever you go in the class on the first day and they don't know who you are, the kids will start to act up. The very first time that ever happened to me, kids started acting up. I tried to be the nice guy. I tried to do it. And then as soon as one kid got away with something and I let it slide, that's when they all took advantage of me, because people are like sharks sometimes. They smell weakness and blood in the water and they
yes, attack, but right? You are making a mistake, my friend.
I didn't. I made the right move.
No, you are confusing weakness with being nice. They're not necessarily the same.
But people,
what I'm saying
people
is,
see it as the same. It may not be the same, but people see it as the same. So here's what I had to do, Larry. I had to make an example out of the first kid who acted up and scare the crap out of him. But here's the thing. I found later that it was usually the kid that got the harshest punishment that came up to me later and apologized and changed their behavior and sought guidance. Because you know what, Larry? Sometimes people do need discipline. People,
you see, you're making a mistake. No. I got to tell you this. Here's where you're making a mistake here. You're making that same assumption. I teach too. I'm with you, brother. I taught from as young as kindergarten to teaching at Yale and Columbia. I've taught too. Absolutely. And when the kid gets upset and gets mad, the first thing I say is, awesome. I love that. This is what I want you to do. Come up here. And they will come up. Oh, I'm tough guy. Whatever. Great. Take this pass. Go to the principal. Bye. Nice and polite as can be. Go to principal. Go. You don't be here? Don't be here. No worries. Go. Just go. Bye. And they keep teaching. Nice and polite as can be. And what happened is, instead of them having to come back later, making a scene, they would just turn and go, can I just stay? Yeah. You want to stay? Stay. Go back. That's what ended up happening. I would do it with adults. I would have adults in my class. I'd be teaching like Department of Transportation, Department of Buildings here in New York. And I have guys who are like, this is a bullshit leadership class. I don't need to be here. I said, you can go, man. Go. Don't show up at all. Don't worry. I will sign your name for you in the book so you still get credit. Don't come. Dude, I don't want you here if you don't want to be here. You can leave. Just like that. Nice and polite. The whole room gets quiet. What's happening here? Dude, go if you want to. I don't mind. Do what you want. Well, no, I should stay. Great. I'm glad you're staying. Boom. You turn them right then and there, and they stay. You can be just as forward, just as strong without being a jerk. One of the things I talk about all the time is just don't be a jerk.
But sometimes, Larry, here's the thing. Like, American Special Forces, I know the Marines consider themselves to all be very special forces.
Because we are, but go ahead.
Right. When you go to kill Osama bin Laden, you don't send in the Marines, you send in the Special Forces.
You send in Navy SEALs who are trained by Marines.
Okay. Well, you send in the Special Forces, you send in a small strike group.
Absolutely.
We may be doing better by addition through subtraction, right? Like a leaner liberty movement.
No, I agree with you on that. I do.
Made up of people who are, like you're saying, like it may be better sometimes to take somebody like a Mike Shipley and say, dude, you voted for Biden. You should go be a Democrat, get the hell out. Like maybe the Libertarian Party is better off after having driven me off, and they get what they really want, which is, I guess, I have to believe that at some point that the Libertarian Party is getting what it wants. Otherwise, they would be doing something else. The Libertarian Party seems to be getting what they want, because how else could you interpret this behavior? It must be that
most people fail.
No,
it's that most people don't get what they want. Most people fail. And don't get me wrong, I hate that fact, but I wouldn't pay my bills if everyone got what they wanted. I wouldn't be a trainer and a coach and a teacher.
Larry,
so I'm kind of happy that
I have to go, but let me make my final appeal to you.
Please appeal away. I'm happy you did that.
Join me in Tea Party 2. I'm not saying join the Republican Party, but you will find that the strategy that I'm going to adjust is one of taking over local county Republican parties and being Tea Party candidates. You can take this idea and use it with Libertarian Party stuff too. But get active in, and maybe just, every once in a while, a hashtag. Here's what we're going to do. The lockdowns, to me, are where the rubber hits the road. Fighting lockdowns, coronavirus lockdowns, economic lockdowns, and mandates should be the libertarian issue of our time. I'm building up Tea Party 2 to fight lockdowns. Number one, that's the number one reason why I'm doing it. And that's what we're going to be entirely focused on. And that's what we need to do. There are some people that are libertarians who are like trying to argue with me about the science of masks, and maybe it's a good idea to just go ahead and obey what these people say and stuff like that. These economic lockdowns are the biggest challenge that any libertarian has ever faced in the history of the United States. Never has a government stepped in and shut down businesses like this and destroyed people's livelihoods and taken our own money from us and sent it to us in the form of checks and told us to stay home. That's what they're advocating for. So that's all I say is get involved with fighting these lockdowns. That's the big deal.
Okay.
That's what I think we should be focused on right now. And here's the thing. Libertarian Party should be secondary. right? The Republican Party should
don't listen to them, guys. Don't listen.
Building up the Libertarian Party should be secondary to fighting for people's economic freedoms and the lockdowns. If the Libertarian Party gets in 0.5%, but all the activists, because all the activists had spent all their time fighting lockdowns, they will have done a better thing for the cause of liberty in the United States than building up a political party. A political party is only a means to an end. It's not the end itself. I got to go.
Well, what last piece?
Okay.
He's right. Maybe Larry should be a little more AP and AP should be a little more Larry.
I am trying to be nicer, but I just...
See that? There we go. We're all right. Brother, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
I will talk to you soon, I'm sure. I'm glad you were able to have your pizza.
Thank you, Larry. Have a good night.
Have a good one. Guys, I'm glad you guys were able to watch Austin in that. That was great. I appreciate that. I want to grab some of the questions and comments you guys brought up. I know I couldn't get them all at the same time, so I'm going to grab some of these at the end, if I could. Down ballot races make a splash too. I completely agree. We do have to worry about down ballot races. They're very important. Absolutely, yes. Sam's about fighting lockdowns. Yes, I'm with you. This has been killing our businesses. And I do think that this is going to be something that people are really, rocking and trying to make stop. I completely agree. Absolutely. Great conversation. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I do appreciate that. This guy has reaffirmed my belief in libertarianism. I'm not sure that's good or bad, John. I'm not sure it's good or bad. I'm still in, right? Look, I want to bring on people who have left, who think it's not the right answer anymore. I brought on Mike Shipley last night, who thinks the party's no longer the right answer for him. And Austin thinks the party's not right for him. One's more from the left, one's more from the right. But I wanted to bring them both on so you guys could hear and see them both. Absolutely. So I'm still in. I still think my 10-year plan is the right plan. I guess we'll find out. 6 years from now, I guess what will I be laughing at Austin? Or will he be laughing at me? I guess we'll see which one or the other. Yes. Rainwater was the LP candidate against the mask mandate. He was. Absolutely, I agree. Yes. Let's see here. Libertarian / Liberal Republican Alliance Marvel team up. Maybe, right? See, I'm not sure. I don't know if my worry is, if you heard what Austin was talking about earlier, one of his biggest problems was the Republican establishment, right? And that's a big issue that many of us deal with. Now, the Libertarian Party establishment isn't bad also. Most establishments are bad. But to be fair with you, the Libertarian Party establishment doesn't have that much power, right? The Republican establishment does. So does Democrat establishment, obviously. But if you're fighting for me to make any attempt to fight the Democrat or Republican establishment within the party, I can't win that. I'm not a party player within the party. It doesn't work. But anyone, to be forward, you can fight Libertarian Party establishment. It isn't that hard. We aren't that powerful as a party. So it becomes a whole lot easier to fight, if that makes any sense. So Jess says, Austin, you belong somewhere you feel free, wherever that is. I agree, Jess. I agree. I'm still here, though. I'm not going anywhere. Yes. Don't be a jerk. I feel personally attacked. I know, Joe. I know. I'm always trying to make sure that I'm trying my best to not be a jerk. I know sometimes I am. I'm still human. But I try not to be. Tell him, Larry. I'm just, you don't have to be a jerk. It is the path to mutual respect. Absolutely. I'm noticing he's trying to lead Larry into a logical trap over and over, and Larry's avoiding the trap, like trying to get him to say socialism early, lead the conversation there. This is what I do kind of for a living. That's all. It's kind of what I do. So yeah, I'm happy to have it. I'm happy to have it. I missed this one. He knows everything. Is the he me, or is the he him, or is the he someone else? Stephen, I don't know who that is. So I hope it's not me. Larry's playing to his strengths. I watched a Joe Rogan interview, and strong army isn't his style. That's true. I'm not a strong arm guy. That isn't my style at all. I feel like if I strong arm you into something, then you didn't really go there, right? You didn't go there. You went there because I strong armed you there, and you're not really going to stay there. Well, I think Austin's idea of, someone fearing you doesn't go away, I think that's true. But if you do it because of fear, you're not really doing it well, because you don't really believe it. But if you do it because you love it and you want to do it, it changes how you do it. And I don't also have to watch you, right? If you fear me, I have to watch you. If you love me, I don't have to watch you. You're doing it because you love it. If you love us or the thing we're doing or whatever the case may be. So I do think the love part does matter. I completely do. Yes. Let's see if I can grab this here. Justin Amash is likely finished as a politician. I hope you're wrong, James. I don't know that you're wrong, but I hope you're wrong. When it comes to our party, he's the most popular guy we have, right? He's got actual experience. He's won elections. If he's done, we could be in trouble. I really hope he's not done. Again, I don't know that to be true. I just hope that you're wrong because I want him to still be able to be part of our party and to run again and to maybe make some real impact is my hope. So Petersen doesn't understand New York. Dems never vote for Republican in New York in the current political climate. Libertarians are the only chance to get Cuomo out. I agree, Nate, completely. In New York State, that's true. Absolutely. That may not be true in other areas, but yes, absolutely. Adam Kokesh ran as Republican a lot. That's right. He did run as Republican before. He did. Yes. He ran before. Yes. Libertarians don't tend to do well running as Republicans. Here or there, but it's generally speaking, they don't. They generally don't do that. I like to see liberty-leaning Republicans. Helen, I bring them on. I do. You've seen me. This show rarely has libertarians on. For those of you who want to see libertarians, actual big libertarians, that's the other show that I do off my Larry Sharpe Libertarian page called Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. That's usually during the day around 3 p.m. when I do that show. That's only libertarians. This show is very rarely libertarians. Very rarely. It's almost always people who aren't. The goal of this show is to bring people together and to see other ways of thinking and to say that we can talk. We can absolutely talk to each other without having to fight. And I can take a punch, clearly, as I get punched often, but it's fine. It's fine. George Pataki was a massive status, and Chris Christie was one of the most anti-gun governors anywhere. Valid points, Martin. As far as Republicans go, Pataki and Christie were not very right-leaning as far as Republicans go. For Democrats, they would be very right for Democrats. But for Republicans, they weren't very right-leaning. And I say it all the time, right? Remember something. In New York City, our Republicans, are they really Republicans? For those of you who don't remember, Michael Bloomberg, who ran for president as a Democrat, was New York City's Republican governor. So, yeah, I'm not sure that the Republicans in New York City are a good example of what Republicans actually are. So, yes. I saw a change in the GOP coming in 1980. I fought to try and change them until I gave up in 2011 and became him an L. I don't think you have any more success than I did. Yeah, I don't know if the GOP can be changed. I don't know. But look, do I hope that he's right? I do. I hope he can go in and have a better Republican Party. I honestly hope it's true. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know. Again, we got 6 years to look down and say, hey, which one of us was more effective? I guess we'll check in then. It's all good. Absolutely. LP doesn't own libertarianism, and the grassroots gatekeepers need to accept this. Yes, very good point. Absolutely. Very good point. All right. Let's see if I can grab a couple more. Biblical, beware the false prophet, Austin. That's funny too. That's good. Exactly. That's good. Let's see if I can keep this. Keep the caucuses. You know, I like caucuses and I don't, Helen. I'm torn on this. The part I like about the caucuses is it lets people of like minds get together. The part that I don't like is it does also create more tribes to fight. That's the one bad part about it. But I'm torn on caucuses. I'm not against them. I don't want to end them at all. But there is a downside, if that makes any sense, that we have to worry about. Absolutely. It's nice to hear seesaw dialogue. Well, thank you. I'm trying to make this interesting, right, for everybody to watch. That's really the key, I hope. The Mises Caucus is an alt-right entry point to the LP. Huh. I guess if you were alt-right, it would be the easiest place to come. I think that's true. I'm not sure that's what they are, but I think they could be. I think that's a part of what they do. I think it is. I think the LibSoc caucus is the same for the left. I think it's an entry point to the LP. I think both kind of are on both sides. Yeah, I think they both are. So let's see if I can do this real fast. PC culture started by communists kicked off the postmodernist movement. Wow, we just geeked out there, didn't we? Okay, I like that. I'll play that. I like that. All right, let's see if I can grab this last piece. Thinking is why I'm no longer an R or D. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Yes. You guys had a lot of back and forth here. I enjoy that. I'm so happy that happened. Yes. All right. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone and vice versa in my situation. There you go. That would be easy if we were all doing that. That would be super easy. I appreciate that. Yes. The Sharpe Way has no libertarians because I am the only true libertarian. Joe, see, I got to bring you on, and then that's it. And then I've just ruined everything. Then I've just ruined anything. Yes. Okay. How much liberty do we have if we can't work, live without unrestrained exposure to COVID? Huh. How much liberty do we have if we can't work or live without unrestrained exposure to COVID? I'm not sure where you're going with that question. Are you saying that we can't have liberty until COVID's gone? Or are you saying we have to have liberty whether COVID's there or not? Maybe I'm not getting it. Maybe there's something else ahead of it that I missed. Maybe I'm missing the context. I appreciate. I'm sorry if I'm mixing the context. Austin is still supporting some libertarian candidates. That's what we are trying to do. We support the GOP if they're liberty. We support LP if GOP is statist. You know, I got to tell you, Randy, while I tend to vote heavy libertarian whenever I can, most of the time in where I live, there's not always a libertarian candidate for me to vote for. So I also mix my votes, right? I am always going to lean libertarian whenever I possibly can. But yeah, I don't always vote libertarian. I don't always. When I see other candidates that are appropriate, I vote other candidates. And that could be Democrat or Republican. In the case of my congressperson was AOC. The only person running against her was a Republican. I voted Republican for that. I voted for Cummings, who I had on the Sharpe Way. So yeah, so I do sometimes. I vote GOP sometimes, but I also vote Democrat too, right? I would do it also. When it comes to our criminal justice reform, very often I will vote for Democratic DAs because they're better in New York City than Republican DAs are, as a general rule. But sometimes, all depends on the person. So, all right, let me keep going if I could here. Let's see. Appreciate the convo with AP. I usually can't stand him, and it's a good reminder to be open and listen to people you disagree with. Yes, and a lot of people got mad at me for bringing him on. I got hate immediately for bringing him on. And so what, guys? This is the show, right? All of you are going to be mad at least one of my guests, if not multiple ones. And some of you won't watch. And I get it. I hope you come back for the next one. But we have to be able to have conversations. We have to be able. I don't want to fight the left. I don't want to fight the right. I want them all. And I mean that. And I try to show that, Chris. I'm trying to show that I want them all. And that's why they can all come on. All of them. Every one of them come on. So, yes. It's human nature to be divisive. With or without caucuses, division will exist. I think that's true. I just don't. I want to create an environment where it isn't as easy as a general rule, right? And I think a two-party system makes that division super easy. I think a 3 or 4 party system makes it harder, but they'll still do it. But I don't want to make it easy at all. I like your style, Larry. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope more people will. It was interesting. Enjoyed a different perspective. He may be right, but we're all still here, Larry. Thank you, my friend. Please stay. Don't run away yet. Not yet. I haven't sold out yet. That's for sure. I haven't sold out yet. I was a leftist libertarian and I love Mises. There we go. So there we go. Absolutely. So not everybody goes in. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for this evening. As always, please head on over. I bug you every time, but I want you to do it. Take the test at theadvocates.org. Take that, the world's smallest political quiz. Share it with your friends to the best of your ability. It does matter. People want to know who you are, what you're doing, and let them take it too. And for those of you who have CBD as part of your health regimen, support a libertarian company. Head over to grownselection.com. Type in Sharpe Way 20 for 20% off. Pick up something that you like. It's good stuff. I stand by it. Please do that if you can. Or, of course, just like, comment, and share. That's always the big deal. If you like what I'm doing, patreon.com/Sharpe. We've got some cash. Throw it this way. If you're making big dollars, I hope you are. But I know some of you aren't. No worries. Like, comment, and share works. And so does theadvocates.org. Guys, thank you so much. I will see you all tomorrow.